Happy Thursday. How are you, brother? Welcome back to the Rose Garden.
Very good to be back here. How you doing?
Good. It's good to see your face. I still see that braid on that. You got your braid going on, and I can actually see your face really big this time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're in a good position. You're positioned well. You look good, brother.
No, thank you, thank you.
And you don't have your hat on today, so we get to see you in your raw form. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sarita. I'm the second half of the sibling pair, and we come in the Rose Garden every week to talk about really important topics and to create a safe space for ourselves to download about today's reality. We've had a crazy week, wouldn't you say, brother?
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting one for sure.
Yes, it has been full of a lot of emotions, and I think that when I was thinking about planning today, I was like, what are the feelings that we're going through? And I think we're going through a lot of um, like maybe a range of emotions, but one of the feelings that stands out to me today is like grief.
Hmm.
How we don't necessarily understand that we're in grief maybe until it's actually happened. So let's recap this week so folks can hear all the nuttiness that's gone on. I guess we could start with some positives before we go into the negatives. So what's happening good with you?
Oh, I mean, I think it's always good to be alive. Number one, right? Alive and healthy and well in terms of all of what that's concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, I really believe that in terms of the priorities of quality of life, health ranks up there at number one. So if
Hmm.
you're blessed enough to be healthy, I think you're in a healthy, wealthy place indeed. But
Hmm.
to me, like everything is in alignment. Everything is all good in my atmosphere on a positive note.
Well, golly, I wasn't gonna, didn't think you were gonna jump into like, well, good, thank goodness I'm alive, but I guess that's a
Why
good.
you're not happy to be alive?
I am, but I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, when you first start of thinking of things that you're blessed with, don't you wake up every morning and in the fact that you woke up this day that you say, I'm grateful to be alive and healthy and alive. So not just alive with
listen,
the greater quality of life, but I'm
listen, Master
yeah.
Sensei, the first thing I do when I wake up is like I run to the bathroom. I'm middle aged, so I'm like I might be thinking glad that I didn't pee on myself in the middle of the night and I could get to the bathroom. That's like probably the first thing I do when I wake up. Then the
Mm,
second thing I do is assess my hunger because your sister likes to eat. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna stay disciplined so I ain't over here thrusting food in my mouth? And then, like the third of the list, I'm like, okay, let me sit down with the creator. So my mind is a lot busier than yours. you
yeah,
know?
obviously, if the first thing in your mind is busy with the bathroom, then sure it is. I mean, when I wake up, the bathroom is probably the secondary thing on my mind. The first thing on my mind is the fact that we woke up. I realize that every day, really, like the game of life is like a big Russian roulette game. We
Yeah,
all playing it, meaning that when you wake up today, you don't know if uh, you even gonna have the luxury of going to bed tonight. You
yeah,
might get pulled off the board before the
yeah,
day is over.
yeah,
And some people didn't even wake up today.
yeah.
So the fact that when my eyes open and I'm still here and
Hmm.
I still have a high quality of life,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that to begin with. And if I didn't have nothing else happening in the day,
Good.
I feel like that's a very good way to start the day for sure.
Well, that is, as a balanced person, I'm going to say that I'm so proud that you do these kind of like systematic checks with yourself to say like, well, I'm awake and that's a good thing. But, and it's interesting because I had the experience this week of practicing what I do, right? And actually, when I say practicing, I had the unique experience of using strategies that I have probably delivered for the last 20 years of my life to people who come to me and trust me with their development and well-being. But I haven't always had opportunities to use those strategies myself. So a lot of it is I believe in the research. I believe I'm rooted in it, but I haven't had opportunities to do that myself. And one of the things that you just described is like this gratitude kind of checklist that people go through, and those gratitude affirmations. And I usually use that a lot with people who are coming through extreme trauma, change states, or having a hard time, dealing with just the realities that they're experiencing, social stress. But I will say, like, like full disclosure, like I practice that as a psychologist. I don't necessarily do that for myself. Like like I said, when I wake up, and I'm very, very grateful in general. Like I don't want to give the impression that I'm not grateful in general, but I take care of some more immediate focal needs, and I don't necessarily walk through those things very mindfully. But I can say from some of the experiences that have happened just on this week, and I used some of the strategies and was surprised. I think I called you earlier this week to say, "Yo, this shit really works."
Right, right,
That
right,
I'm using, and I was really surprised that it actually helped me get through some of the burdens of the week. But if I had to kind of recap some really, really good parts about my week is, I was on vacation last week, and we were on vacation with four generations of Jameses. And so you can imagine that was a lot of people, a lot of experiences to be a part of. And what I loved was like how much we needed each other and how good it felt to be in a pack. And I have those little grandbabies, and so again, I'm getting to really absolutely pay attention to, in a way I didn't get to pay attention to with my own children, how they are going through the developmental course. And our oldest grandson, who just turned 18 months, is overjoyed sometimes, so much so that he cannot express the joy in words, or so it's always coming out in behavior. And we noticed that throughout our entire time as a family, and we all were enriched by it. The great grandmothers, the grandparents, the parents, the aunties. So that was like the best part of my week, was really spending time with family. And I know that that's not everybody's experience. So I'm super grateful that those four generations of Jameses got to be together, but also that we were able to be enriched by each other. And so that was my kind of good part of the week. In addition to, I guess, as to your point, like, yeah, we all woke up and that felt good. And then I did some other learning opportunities. I attended a conference, and so that was good. And so, there were a lot of blessings, I would say, this week, but um, there were some hardships. And those hardships really, really uh, were felt. And those hardships, really, some of them feel like they were very preventable. And I had a real human experience this week, and I don't know if other people can relate to this, where I was angry with God because of what some of those experiences. And it actually started off with your experience, the experience that that your friend went through, and then it interestingly trickled down to my own family. So why don't we go through what you're experiencing and how you've had to, I guess, I think what you were trying to articulate before was, I already wake up every day and I'm thankful for the greatness of waking up, but I think it's even more so today because of what you've experienced.
yeah. I really honestly don't like to to focus on superficial things to be grateful for, right?
Mhm.
Because when you compartmentalize things to the basic levels, you know, I just look at the simple things of very good reasons to be grateful, no matter what your circumstances are. Because if I was waking up today in a hotel bed, or if I was waking up in a penitentiary bunk, the
Mhm.
fact that I'm waking up healthy,
Mhm.
in the lowest level of still being alive, now granted, both of those experiences two different things,
Right, right. I think so. I think
Yeah, I would much rather wake up in a hotel bed for sure. You
right,
know,
right,
but I'm
right.
just saying, no, I'm here, you know, participating in the grievance cycle with my brother Kiko, who
Mhm.
lost his son in a very tragic, fatal unnecessary car accident where a drunk driver was going the wrong way on a highway and struck his vehicle, which ended up somersaulting 2 times and hitting a median and then bursting into flames. So, long story short, his son was pronounced dead on the scene, along with the front passenger, and both of their bodies were pretty charred to an unrecognizable state. So much so that they, at this point, can't even identify him from the coroner's office to make the claim that it's actually him.
Mhm.
And then the other two passengers in the rear, one of them since been deceased at the hospital, and then the other one is still clinging to life. Last status check we got. So yeah, that is definitely disturbing.
Mhm.
It makes me want to add on gratitude and appreciation for the fact that my children are alive, healthy, and well, regardless of the relationship I have with them at the time. But the fact that they still alive, healthy, and well, and they have opportunities,
Mhm.
to create new experiences in life for themselves and everybody else attached to them. I'm grateful for that, but I also feel saddened that my friend has lost that opportunity with his own son.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really what struck me about hearing about it, because I think I heard about it via social media, was the senseless nature of it. And I think that's where my anger resonated, was like, in 2025, there's no reason why we need drunk drivers. I mean, we have Uber, we have Lyft, we have taxi cabs, we have friends, you can call people to pick you up. You can, have public transportation, all these other things. There's just no reason to to drive drunk. And I feel like I feel very angry when that happens. And then we grew up with, in the context of grandma being very active in Mothers Against Drunk Driving, um, and really teaching us about that level of service, one, but um, uh, the needlessness of like drunk driving. And I don't know if you remember this, but this situation brought up a memory that I don't know if it was suppressed, but you, me, and Levinus were in a car crash when we were young. Do you remember that?
Remember that when the dude was talking about up and away or something like that?
Yeah.
And then end up being like a hole in the windshield and all this. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. And we crashed, and the windshield. And then what was our reaction? Do you remember our reaction?
We
We
got
got
out,
out immediately.
walked the rest of the way home.
We walked the rest of the way home. And so that memory came to mind with this, because that person had was drinking. And then, of course, after that terrible situation, he got the blessing of our grandmother, which wasn't necessarily a positive blessing, but he got, our grandmother intervened. And that memory came to mind that I don't know that I had thought about in many, many years, but that shows you how being exposed to certain traumas can unearth your own trauma. And I actually could remember the feeling of hitting that pole, and what my body felt like. And what I can remember is the surge of adrenaline trying to get, oh, we got to get out of here. And we were like, no, we're okay. We're all right. Leave us alone. We were pretty young. I don't know how old we were, but we were, you know, really young to be walking on the side of a country road, because back then that's when we lived in the country. So I actually got to that feeling. And that's, again, an example of things that, I might hear about in session. I might hear about when with my clients, but I haven't often had an opportunity to experience it. But this week I experienced it very viscerally, and it didn't go away, because that story you just shared really resonated with me, because this is somebody I know and care
Mhm,
about, and that care about his family,
mhm.
and care about the outcomes. And so that feeling of anger, but also that pointing to my own traumatic experience. And I was, I think we were under 5, maybe. I don't know our exact age, but we were pretty young for that to have happened to us. And but we were luckily, in this situation, we walked away, and Kiko's son did not. So um, it gave me great sadness, but it brought up that feeling and that memory. Um, and again, just the senseless part of drunk driving. And we don't have, in any kind of driving, right? Under any kind of impairment, you don't have to get behind a vehicle when you decide to make those kind of choices and decisions.
Yeah, 100%. I think that I feel like Kiko's been handling it very gracefully though, because and I think that's a part of his journey in the his spiritual walk and faith, because he's definitely being tested now. I think ultimately, uh, I know that mothers probably feel this way as well, because you're protective and guarded over your family. But definitely from a male perspective, all men are always waiting for the opportunity for them to prove that they can protect their family.
Mm,
And then, when it doesn't happen and somebody, hurts your family in this kind of a way, you just can't help but think about retribution and revenge. But Kiko made a comment that, justice is different than revenge. And
mm,
desires is justice, and not the actual revenge part. But I also was thinking about the drunk driver's family, because that dude was pretty young too. I think he was 22 years old, or
mm.
is 2 years old, because
Is he alive?
yeah, he's alive. Nothing happened to him. Like, he didn't get injured at all.
No injuries.
But yeah, but him being alive, he's taken multiple lives in his decision. At least three, probably four, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And then, not to mention his own situation, because definitely I can't see how there could be a future without him being incarcerated,
mhm,
for some length of time.
mhm,
But that's also putting his family through things,
mhm,
his,
mhm,
but whoever is a member of his family, they're gonna be, looked at in a funny way as to, what was going on in his family that made this guy decide to drink and drive, and then fatally kill people.
mhm.
And then, the impact on them to have a child that's going to be incarcerated, facing these serious charges, and what they have done to other people's families.
Right, right.
So it's just devastating and detrimental all the way across the board.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up Kiko's help state, because when I talked to him, I made this comment. I said, "You're doing such." I called you to comfort you, and here you are comforting me, because at the time I was in that anger phase and wanting to be very negative about the loss. And which is, also, I'm going to give myself permission to be human in that phase too. Like when you don't want something, that the human experience is you want to control it, and you want to do all the things you can to control it. But I even made this remark, like, here I am trying to give you comfort, and you're giving me comfort. So I think that speaks to the person that Kiko is, and where he is on his faith walk. And I love that um, that's something that stands out in his development, because folks that know him know that he's a developing person and open, and saying, this is a daily, daily, daily um, uh, test for him. But what else that I liked is he directed me to the book of Job. And one thing that we know was we were over churched when we were little. So we had to spend a lot of time in church, learn, but as an adult, there's been some tests of faith, at least for me. And it's been very hard for me to stay grounded and rooted in some of those teachings. So he brought me back to the book of Job, and he asked me to read it. And I did that. I actually spent time reading the book of Job. And what I was delighted to see was that there's a lot of lessons in that book that we can take away now. And one of them is, it's all right actually to express anger, frustration, disturbance in situations that you feel like you don't want to be a part of, right? Like, this is, and God can handle it. So I feel like, as like humans, we get all bent out of shape sometimes by having these negative reactions and negative responses. Like I said, I found myself being very angry in this situation. And one of the things I said immediately in my mind was, there's a lot of screwed up people in this world. I can give you a list. I can hand over a list. Some of them very public. Why didn't you take any of those people? Why are you taking this special loved one who was young? You know, Kiko's son was 21. Um, and
But
maybe
you're right. And I think that the truth is that we're all screwed up in it. We all, every single one of us are screwed up people in some way.
right.
form.
Well,
There's
I
none of
beg to differ.
us. But if you do that, that means you're just delusional. You
Yeah.
probably, somebody else to get some clarification. But no, we're
Yeah.
all imperfect. We're all inheritance of sin, and we're
Yeah.
all. So the thing about love that I realize is that people always talk about this feeling of being worthy and being enough and all
Hmm.
this stuff. But the truth is that the person who is the giver of love, right, gives you a great blessing because in truth, none of us are completely worthy of it.
Mm.
None of us are.
Hmm.
And none of so it's like, you always got to remember it's by grace, by God's grace that a person is saved, not by nothing you do or don't do. You
Hmm.
know, it's what He sees in you, what He decides. And but
Hmm.
ultimately, we all are condemnable, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's why I say, like, what I see in love, which is the beautiful thing, is that it's not the absence of knowing that; it's
Hmm.
the fact
Hmm.
that people are aware that there's some imperfections, but they decide to love you anyway. You know,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you may, like I say, you may not even necessarily be worthy of it or quote unquote enough, but they still choose, to give you this love and radiate the love with you. I think like God blesses us in that kind of a way where He gives us many opportunities. You
But
know,
don't you think like a part of our human experience is, um, or even like why we're able to do such messed up things sometimes is like when we are the actors of the wrong, we do a lot of forgiving of ourselves pretty quickly,
right, right, right.
right?
Yeah,
And when
that's
somebody else does something to you, you are ready for, and I'm gonna say
giving them complete.
retribution.
Right. Well, I would say that the thing for ourselves is that we always justifying in our minds, bad behavior, our bad behavior, and
Right.
we make it reasonable. Like, oh well, I don't have to be doing this because he don't do this for me, or
Right.
I don't have to do this because she don't do it. But it's not the fact. But that's just justifying, right? Justification. But I think that something else that came out in the conversation that me and Kiko had was that this is warriors for good or whatever.
Mhm.
Just a warrior. Period. You always looking to like engage in a battle and have the opportunity to demonstrate strength and prove that you can protect the people that you love, and you got the bravery to do it, the courage to do
Mhm. Mhm.
it. But I realized that just in having a conversation with him that, let's just say, right, for instance, if um it was Kiko's son that was driving drunk and
Mm,
he did this to somebody else, right?
mm, mhm,
And that other family felt like, well, he shouldn't even have his life anymore because he took these people's lives.
mhm,
And now they want to take his life as a result of it.
mhm,
I think that the thing is, if I'm the angry person, I happen to care about Kiko and his son.
mhm,
But let's just say that was my child that got killed by somebody else's child who I actually love too.
mhm,
Then it would cause me to pause
mhm,
and thinking of causing them harm.
mhm,
So now it made me expand my awareness to think of that person in a way like, well, what if I did care about this stranger?
mhm,
So the intent then is, for any warrior, and this come back to the art of war, which I
mhm,
understand it in a more visceral, personal way now. When it
mhm,
says the intent is to take an army whole, not to
mm,
destroy it. You know,
mhm,
like the to win means that you cause them to surrender
mhm,
without taking lives. So our intent is for to save the person,
mhm.
not to destroy them.
Right,
But they still got to face justice or whatnot.
right. And how did Kiko help you understand what justice was? You know, what
Well,
would
because we're
justice look
talking
like
about
right now?
Well, justice for him is that the dude actually served some real time for what he did, so
Mhm.
that he can have the opportunity to sit on it. And you know, I guess that the family feel like he got punished. Okay.
Has the family heard? Has anybody heard from the family?
No, no. I mean, honestly, there was I think his aunt and mother were on the news, and that's the only way that they actually have heard from them. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
but in regards to actually hearing from them directly, no, no one has, right?
Mhm.
But I think that inside of our own families, we have people that do terrible things,
Right.
and you'll like if these weren't our family members, I would have all kinds of judgment on them.
Absolutely.
But when they come close to home with you, where it could also be your own child, and you look at their
Mhm.
own child, they be like, they have done an action that's so deplorable that is worthy of death for them, but then you can't wish death on your own child like that.
Right.
So
When
then,
I also think that then what you're describing is his form of justice involves acknowledgement, but it also involves repair. And I think that, you know, it's not enough just going to serve time in this scenario. That's not going to be enough. It would really be some kind of real repair. So I wonder what that repair would be like, and
when,
if people have even thought about that.
well, I would say this, right, that there, this is an irreparable thing.
You think so?
You put yourself in the shoes and you tell me if
Well,
somebody took your son also had a head-on collision with a drunk driver this week as well.
yep.
If his situation turned into a fatality where you lost your son, is there anything that anybody could do to ever repair it? Is there anything?
Well, I don't know that you could repair the loss, but one of the things that made me angry about that scenario, outside of the fact that it was my son and it was happening inside of this same context where somebody we cared about had just gotten hit by and killed, and then what was it? 2 days later. I mean, it was just too real. And at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, like why are you drinking at that time?
It's
Was that
crazy.
the person, even though they both walked away, air quotes, that person didn't come to check on my son or say, uh, you know make amends. And I don't know if in that moment, in that person's state, that was what they thought about, but that's definitely needed for our healing, because I have made that person a monster in my mind. You know what I mean?
So that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
even if he did, like, I really believe that even if he did come over there to check and do all this stuff, you still would be like, why are you drinking, and why are you doing those types of things?
Mhm.
It still wouldn't be enough because
It wouldn't be enough, but it would make that person human to me. Because, like, right now, that's a monster, right? And so,
right.
what do you do with monsters? You slay dragons, and so that's how I'm feeling about that person.
Well, I'm gonna
And
honestly say this, right? I believe this, like you said, is grief, right?
yeah,
Right now I see and the grief it has cycles of emotions, and those things are not linear. They come back in different ways and all this stuff, and there could be a point in time where you feel comforted and you feel like you got enough justice, and you feel, and then you could have another day and you don't feel that anymore you know
hmm,
but
hmm,
if something is valuable and precious to you and you lost it in this kind of devastating way, which is very tragic and totally unnecessary. I don't think that there's ever a recoverable. There's nothing no one ever can do to replace that. You know,
hmm, hmm,
nobody can be like the only way that a person could fix that if they were able to come back and breathe life into your child and totally restore them again, so
hmm,
y'all could have the experiences that you're going to miss out on. But
hmm.
nobody can fix that hole that's left in you. You know,
Well,
but
repair
I
doesn't
think
necessarily mean fix. I think repair means there's some level of accountability. I'm reminded of a story where there were young people who were in a fight, and in this fight, the child there was a stabbing, and it was a fatal stabbing. And this was many years ago. And the child who was stabbed died. And so the other school age child, I don't know, maybe they were in high school, so whatever age you are in high school, did go to prison and went to prison for a long time, but was released by some program because, I guess the juvenile statutes had changed or whatever. So at the person's release, what that person did, was build a relationship with the mother and the father of the child that he killed. And because his reasoning for it is that, like, his intent was, he was afraid, he was a kid, it was a fight, his intent wasn't to kill was the outcome. And then over the years of them building, repair, they were able to at least both grieve, because there was some recognition, there was grief on both parts, become a part of each other's family, because that's, we're a part of a human connected family. And so I share that story because that is how I hope to be, right? Like that loving, that because at the end of the day, they those people come around and talk to conferences, mostly around like juvenile justice and stuff like that, like court reform and things like that, and restorative practices. They talk a lot, and so what they represent is the best quality of us as humans, and so we want to all get there.
Well,
So that's what
I
I mean
feel
by
that
repair.
that's a beautiful story. I'm glad you clarified what you mean by repair, because by definition, repair does mean to fix. So I
Mm,
think like what you describing to me is like more of a reconciliation, right?
mhm,
Because there are some things that are irreparable, but
mhm,
you can still reconcile it, and that sounds like that's what happened in that story. By
mhm,
them taking accountability, by them having remorse, by them working to rebuild, some establish some sort of relationship and all that, and then the other side being receptive to
mhm.
that process being able to happen. So yeah, it's true, like that's a beautiful thing, and I do feel like you do work to be that way. But again, like I feel like we all are the same. I heard I read Mike Tyson account, his teacher Customato,
Mm,
um, telling him that what's the difference between a hero and a coward, and he was saying fundamentally there is no difference. The only difference is what one does versus what the other does not do.
mm.
I'm saying, so what I'm trying to say in that is every human being gonna grieve in this sort of situation. Everyone, you
Yeah.
know, every human being gonna have the feelings like, uh, I wish, I could do something to get revenge. You know, every human being is gonna have that. Some human beings are able to do what you said, reconcile despite the fact they have those other feelings. Some can't, and I don't know if either one are right or wrong. It
Mhm.
just is what it is. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. But I do feel that, like you said, in this current day and time, certain things we shouldn't have, like drunk driving during the day or night, all of that stuff. Those things are totally unnecessary. Those are just very reckless choices.
Right.
They
Right.
have very devastating outcomes to
Absolutely.
yourself and others. And I feel like these things, and then once this type of outcome, permanent consequences again to yourself and others that cannot be repaired. you know and I feel like those are the things that I guess is quote unquote decent people, right? These are people
Right.
you want to avoid.
Yeah.
You want to be like, I don't want to cause that type of impactful harm on nobody else. But some people don't give a damn. They
Yeah.
totally selfish. They don't care about the hurt and harm they cause anyone. you know and and sometimes I think those people don't even care about themselves either, to be real.
Right.
you know and we just have to find a way to live with it,
Yeah.
find a way
And,
to
and
deal.
and the thing is, the reality is we will live, right? We will live. How we live is our absolute choice. And I think that
Absolutely.
that's not emphasized enough, because so we can live with bitterness, right? But there's
Mhm.
consequences, right? To
Mhm.
being bitter. And I hope that maybe tomorrow that person that hit my son, you know doesn't look like a monster, right? Because you know it's interesting. You compare the two stories, and I have to always elevate how different Kiko is even communicating. And his son, he lost his son, and I didn't, and yet he is still not in the same place of grief that I'm in. And so, you know, when you have that reflection, sometimes you feel underdeveloped. You know, you talking to yourself, be like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I so emotional about it? But I think a lot of people want their pound of flesh, right? Like, it just feels so unfair. And I think it's just it was a compounded feeling for me. I like to see myself as a more developed human than I guess I'm behaving now. But I think that it also makes me very human to have these feelings. And so I'm sitting with them. I'm not letting them go very, you know, I don't need them to run down the street. I don't need them to, I need to sit with it and understand it. Because I think sitting with it is going to allow me to understand what has me feeling this way. And I think one of the things I recognize just, you know, in talking myself through this is how much I don't have any control over stuff. And at the end of the day, my human experience wants to at least control death and dying when it comes to my loved ones, right? And I know how absurd that is, you know, like I know we don't have that control, but
Nah,
at
that's
least I want to have that control. Like you know, I want to be able to have my son and my grandchildren and my daughter and my brother and the people I love, my friends, as long as I want. But
well,
that's
you have it now. You have it now, and I think in this moment you hold on to it, and that's why I say you wake up and even in this second, you just be grateful for what it is you currently have,
hmm
right? Because at one point in time, it's going to definitely change, right? 'Cause that bullet, this game of Russian roulette we playing, the
yeah,
bullet gonna come out the chamber on one of these pools, and
yeah.
that pool is every day that we wake up, you know.
hmm
So it's inevitable. It's definitely gonna come, but it's a matter of the perspective that you have on it, which I appreciate walking through this with Kiko on certain things
hmm
because I mean it was just good to like you said to sit with it and feel for all the corners in this room
hmm
and just certain things just reflecting on the fact that you know we are truly one you
hmm
know
hmm
and it's and what this dude has done to others he's actually done to himself too you know and he gonna have to whether he try to run from being accountable whatever it is he gonna be accountable one way or the other you
hmm
know and I feel like like you said what Kiko is very really simply looking for is just consolement and comfort.
hmm
Yeah, he's getting that through prayers. He's getting that through the seeking of justice, the arrangements of giving his son the honorable um, remembrance that he feels like he deserves, and having to deal with his own self,
hmm
as a part of this. But it never, he suffered a great loss.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's the big hole that he'll never have.
right,
The opportunity to have some experiences that he could have. You know,
right.
and that the only thing we can do, like you said, is accept this reality. And something funny. His mom said, like, life gonna go on though. You got to
Mhm.
work. Bills gonna come. What I mean? stuff
Right,
stuff gonna happen. Like you gonna have to find a way to keep on moving forward.
right,
And
right.
that's easy for people to say who ain't directly feeling it. And I
hmm
and I feel like, but I give him credit. He is doing that. So
Yeah,
salute to him, and
yeah,
heartfelt condolences to him and his family.
yeah,
And this just and I feel like we're lucky, as a family that we don't really experience that kind of devastating loss and in mass. We don't really have all of that. We got to
yeah.
work, but our day coming.
Oh, it is. And I want to share something with you because I think that's a good place to either kind of stop uh,
Mhm.
and go to our next, hopefully more. Uh, the way we end our show is always through some interaction. And I have something that I've come up with, but I was so since Kiko sent me to study.
Mhm.
as any good preacher would, right? He sent
Right,
me to my Bible, and then he
right,
told me to study it and build my relationship, right? When I
right,
was when I was calling to give him comfort, he gave me comfort.
right,
And
right.
so the study took me down another pathway, because I have this application Bible, and it has little things at the bottom that kind of explain the passages, and it reminded me in one of the footnotes. It said something about the death, the grief cycle, and Kubler Ross's model, who I, as a psychologist, have studied. And but what I hadn't studied was the her work. Like, I hadn't studied her and
Mhm.
what brought her to this area, which was, she was a psychiatrist who worked in palliative care and death and dying. And so it brought me to her history and what made her interested in it. And as she what she has been reduced to is, she's the person who founded these 5 stages of grief, right?
Mhm.
Like, that's what she's most known for, and people will hear that. But what they don't understand is, if you really read her work, and it's not linear, to your point, which people always criticize her modeling, because they're like, oh, it looks like you transition in this very linear way, and blah blah blah. But we know that that's not true, and that wasn't her
Yeah,
assessment of it.
yeah.
That's other people's application.
Mhm.
But if you really read her life, she really saw death and dying as a natural progression through the developmental course, and how she assisted people, because at the towards the end of her career, she was going into um, like a hospice care, and working with those workers to make people's transitions, which is what hospice is. I mean, at that point, you're on your way out. When the hospice nurses come, which are special nurses, they are trained to help you with the dying process. And so she said something that I thought was meaningful, and I wanted to share it today, which was that we spend a lifetime developing ourselves to see all of the people we love go through natural transitions, like childhood and walking and talking, and then adolescence, and then marriage, and then all those key milestones. But she saw death as a key milestone, and that in order to be ready for that key milestone, preparation is involved. So at the time that she was passing, she she said the creator is a procrastinator,
Mhm.
and that she was ready herself for death.
I feel that.
because
I feel
she
that.
because she had done the work of dying.
Mhm.
And I had never thought of it in that way, that, we prepare for everything. Don't you prepare for your kids to get toilet trained? And then, the next thing is to use utensils. And then the next thing is to date. And we give them all this preparatory process we go through. But we don't necessarily do that for death, because we don't look at it. Like I said, I know my problem is I want to escape it, you know, and, and we
Well,
ain't doing that.
it's funny because I think that anytime a person, yeah, I feel you, and anytime a person, they do estate planning, they essentially they are preparing for when they're not going to be here, right? So
Mhm.
basically, they're preparing for death. And in my personal opinion, I think, when you embrace that aspect of life as a milestone, that's when you really actually live.
Mhm.
Because I felt like when our cousin passed away over the Christmas holiday or whatnot, his sudden demise and the way it happened and all that stuff, kind of rocked me a little bit because I wasn't prepared at
Mhm.
that time when he met his end. And I was thinking, at that point in time, I was feeling very anxious because I was like, I got to get my situation all mapped out so
Mhm.
that I can be living again,
Mhm.
without the fear of my affairs not being in order.
Mhm.
So I could see how when you actually, embrace that and plan for it, whatnot, and nobody knows when their ticket gonna get called, but that you just have things all lined up.
Hmm.
Then you actually every single second of every day you actually living more fuller.
Hmm.
You know, so to me, like she's right. It's definitely a milestone that we gotta essentially embrace. I mean, it's the
Hmm.
thing. You know what I told you before was that I feel like this journey of life is ultimately learning the great lesson of how to let go.
Mm.
And the final letting go is letting go of yourself, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that thing we keep encountering, on every path of this journey, is
Hmm.
we encounter it every day, so like this day is over. We have to go to bed, you gotta let go of the day, right?
Hmm.
And then the new day starts and all this stuff. So that's kind of hard sometimes, I think, for people because we fixating on certain things and we attach to holding on to stuff, and that's okay too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I feel
Yeah.
like it's a thing of you know, what you value the most, you're gonna definitely cherish.
Right.
And I think, it's the memories that we, make with people and all that stuff. Those are the things that are eternal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we have to hold on to it to pass it on,
Yeah.
because let's say uh 4 or 5 generations from us, they ain't gonna know about Xavier and Sharita unless they roll back these YouTube joints.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, you know what? The petty part of me, just so I can end on some petty, is
Yeah.
that as we prepare, we know that everybody's going to meet the same fate, right? And that death is going to come to all those who have harmed us and who haven't been good to
Right,
us
right,
too. So
right.
the petty part of me is, as we're preparing for our own, if there's somebody out there messing with you and you don't like, they on their way out of here too. So
Yeah, it'll catch him. One day it'll catch him. So you're right
it's
about
gonna
that.
touch
Like
him. It's
that's the
gonna
thing.
touch him. It's
Yeah,
gonna touch him.
that's the thing about life that makes us all, on the same playing field, right?
Yep, it make you feel good. Even the rich, look, even the rich ones and the ones that you think they done got away, they're not getting away. They're
Nah.
definitely not getting away from that. And so that makes me feel whole. And I appreciate it so much hearing that. And so I think that's our key takeaway is that
Mhm.
if we change the way we are preparing, right, for loss and see it as a development, that means that we're all gonna have to be retching down to even to the little ones, right? Because what I learned about Kubler Ross too was, she had a near death experience in her infancy and then continued to have some struggles early on in her development because of her own health. And
Mhm.
that's what got her interested in death and dying. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so she had a whole nother, which again, if you believe in the creator, she was divinely selected to do this
Right, right.
because
Well,
I don't know too many people want to hang out with people who died.
well, I hear you on that, but I also think that part of this whole um, aspect of grief is understanding what these stages and cycles of grief are. And I also think that sometimes these frameworks and models they're like you said there's some general assessments, but they're not complete and whole.
Hmm.
If you're going through it yourself, like you'll you'll feel it, and then you'll feel the
Oh
totality of
yeah,
it.
you're gonna feel it.
But I think what Kiko mentioned though, which I think is interesting, is he's preparing himself in a way of getting grief counseling. And
Okay.
I think that's well, he hasn't done it yet, but he knows he's going to need it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he's setting it up to where he can get it, and I think that's very wise because understanding what you're feeling and why
Hmm.
matters, because I do think that sometimes things are so deeply internalized that you don't even realize why,
Right.
you feel a certain way. Like it could be some deep resentments and all this stuff that surface in a funny way. So
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's doing that, and I would encourage other people to look into that, right? Because like I said, it's inevitable. It's going to happen to us all. Some
Yeah.
people think that we all grieving in multiple ways, like
Mhm.
you lost a job, or
Mhm.
you did this, you lost an opportunity, like you had a dream and that wasn't fulfilled. So
Mhm.
like they think that we're in various states of grieving all our life, right?
Mhm.
And people are manifesting this in various forms of bad behavior, right?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And you know what might add to that, because I love that, and yeah, I'm so hopeful that I'll always have a job. Not that I'm the specialist in grief and loss. That is not my wheelhouse. But my cousins in this will always have a job. But the other kind of thing I would recommend is the grief counseling as a group, because
Yeah.
sometimes being able to what has been helpful, because we have had this collective experience. Again, my son didn't die, so
Mhm.
I am not in any way pretending that what I'm experiencing is anything near right.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Mhm.
But I was some features of it were the same, but
Yeah, definitely.
being able to be comforted by people who are going through the same thing, it was really valuable. And I think that that's the part of grief counseling, and going into it in a group. Then some people don't like it, some people don't like the shared, the collective healing that can happen, but collective healing is really important. So I'm deeply appreciative that y'all over here trying to make sure that psychologists and those who work in the mental health field always get their checks. Remember, now they making changes to how we getting paid with Medicaid and Medicare, so y'all might have to be paying a little bit more out of your pocket. But we are here and we are available to support you. And that's gonna our time goes so fast, brother, here in the Rose Garden. But I'd like to pivot to some more uh, humorous discussion, and something a lighter discussion.
Uh,
And so let me tell you why we're doing this. So
mhm.
I have I'm a part of a mentoring group
Mhm.
where they pair adults with children.
Mhm.
And I have a young mentor, young mentee, who is super, super brilliant, right? And
Mhm.
but also very funny.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
but it's kind of a funny that's not like ha ha funny, it's kind of
Right,
like
right.
a dry humor. And
Mhm.
so because I'm a doctor, right, people have assumptions about me. They think I'm really, really smart. And
Mhm.
so this youngster loves to play riddles with me.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Loves to play riddles. All right. And so every time we're together, there's a riddle. And I can say for the first couple of months, I got the riddles. They were dumb riddles. Okay. But they got harder.
Uh-huh.
They got harder. So I find you to be one of the most brilliant humans that I know. Right.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm gonna give you some of these riddles.
All right, tell me. Let me hear it.
All right, and see how you fare.
All right, let's
Okay.
see. Let me hear
All
it.
right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What asks no questions but must be answered?
Fate.
A phone.
That's funny. That's very
Another one. See,
yeah.
you see, you get these. So, can you imagine a kid like, "Oh, you're not so smart, Dr. J." Blah blah blah. Little
Just,
bastard. He always testing my brilliance. Okay, but I think you're gonna get one of these. Are you ready?
yeah.
All
That's
right. All right. Are you
mhm.
ready for the next one, sir?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let me hear it.
What has hands but cannot clap?
Clock.
Oh, you heard that one before.
Now I ain't heard it before, but that just makes sense. It just came to me.
It didn't make sense to me. I was
Did
like,
it?
where's hands and count? I was like, a dog, a cat, or.
Yeah.
um, what has a bottom at the top? What has a bottom at the top?
Ooh, what's the bottom at the top?
What has a bottom at the top? See, this is a tricky one.
A bottom at the top.
What has a bottom at the top?
I don't know that one. Is it a like a parachute?
This one. So what if I used, okay,
Yeah,
and this is not a show for children. I'm gonna
right,
change it.
right.
It has an ass at the top. You might get it that way.
What's that top? That's at the top.
What has a ass at the top? Are you ready?
Yeah, I don't know.
Your legs. You know how your
That's so stupid. But it's funny as hell because it's so dumb.
it's so bad. And the delivery, like this kid's delivery is like amazing. All right, I gotta give you one more.
You gotta be a comedian.
Like and not like on purpose. Like the kid is like
You should,
seriously
be
crazy.
a comedian for real.
Oh, but see, it's got to be in a room full of people that think they're smart, right? So this doesn't hit like it only hits well with like the right
It
people.
would.
All right,
It's funny, yeah.
it's funny. I love the dude. All right, are you ready?
Mhm.
Let me give you a good one that I couldn't get. Let me see if I can trick you. Ah, this one's different. Okay, this one you got to pay attention to the main points. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
How many bricks does it take to complete a building made of brick?
One.
Tell me
All of
more.
huh?
Tell me more.
How many bricks does it take to make a building made of bricks?
How many bricks does it take to complete a building made of brick?
Oh, just one to
Why
complete
do
it.
you say one?
Yeah, because if it's made of bricks, all you need is one to finish it.
The last one.
Yeah,
Could not get that.
yeah.
See, I think you're a little.
You know why I think that dude should be a comedian because I, I saw this thing on late night show thing with Dave Chappelle recently.
Uh-huh.
It was with the dude Conan and O'Brien. If you
Right.
want to look it up, but it's funny as hell. Basically, what he's trying to say is that some comedians get mad at him for parroting white voice, and he said, "I parroted what I hear, which is the absence of rhythm in it, right?" But he said, there's a gift in it though, that
Uh-huh.
white voice, because he said white people can tell you terrible things without you getting excited about it. So he's like, that's why there's so many white newscasters. And he did it. So he did it. He goes, um, today in Kosovo, there's babies getting burned, murder, death, rape, kill. Then he said, and then right after this, sports. And he says, well, all I heard from that is right after sports are coming up next. Then he said, a white dude will come up to you and say, sir, you got to leave. And he says, sir, I'm afraid I got to ask you to leave. And he goes, the guy said he was afraid. So I believe it. And then he says, sir, I'm sorry. You know, we can't give you this job, but we're going to keep you in mind. He goes, well, God going to keep me in mind. So I still got hope. But then he was like, he could see how white comedians think black people are because we got rhythm in our tones and stuff that we're sing-songy and stuff in the way we talk. But he said the same, if it was a black newscaster saying the same thing, he'd be like, damn, they burning babies. Murder. It's just different. You know what I mean?
Right,
That
right.
because it was so true.
Right,
You know?
right.
So
Listen, listen, I totally get it. And I will make that recommendation that comedy is in this youngster's
yeah,
in this youngster's profile. And I can absolutely agree to what you are saying because it's funny, and we're gonna have to close out on this soon, but it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine whose husband is just uh probably undiagnosed spectrum. Okay. But they've been together since they were in high school. And
yeah,
the
yeah.
funniest dude I've ever, not on purpose funny. So one of our
Right, right.
friends, so that person, he happens to not be black. Right. And so one
Oh,
of
wow.
our friends, uh, but they are God, their godchildren are black. So their godchildren were getting christened. Right.
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
And it was at a black Baptist church. Okay.
That's funny.
So we all go to this christening, right? with our friend who's on the spectrum, and they're now taking the invitation to be the godparents to this wonderful little black kids. And at the end of that evangelical blessing, my friend's husband looks at me and said, "If I knew church was this fun, I would have been at black churches every day." Because
that's what Karina said.
he said he was loving the praise and worship, and then they go praise and worship, pass the collection plate, praise and worship again. And he said, "I've never been so happy to give $20 to a place I'm never going to." So on that note, we're going to end this show with our gratitude for all those who have joined us, and also our gratitude, as my brother reminded us, for the gift of life. Recognizing that some folks don't have that opportunity, and learning from all of our examples today about grief, loss, and appreciation. Brother, you got anything else to close us out?
I agree with you. I just want to express gratitude, like you said, for everybody that's part of our community, our family, friends, and even those that we don't know yet, that we're gonna meet and get to know in the future. And once again, be inside of this grand gift of life collectively. And but it's still also this continuous game of Russian roulette. And I just wish you all luck.
That good luck. Look. Best of luck. Listen, best of luck. And we got to give a shout out to our number one fan who actually joined us on YouTube. And I say number one fan, your niece, she be sharing and posting. So welcome, niece. Thank you for coming. And she's your niece, my daughter, and always being a part of our Rose Garden community. To our Rose Garden community, we'll meet you back in the Rose Garden next week at 2 p.m. Bye for now.
Bye for now.